Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not 100% sure if this is the intro to today's video or just me in the post edit, which it is, but this video idea and bits and pieces of today's commentary is from last month, but still hold a great amount of truth and value today. The gist of it all is Counter-Strike Esports is becoming increasingly difficult with all the expenses behind the scenes, that being for tournaments and organizations themselves. With us now wrapping up the first CS2 major questions have arisen, no puns intended. Monetizing Counter-Strike is one of the hardest things an esports organization can do, with all the controversy in and outside the game, and yet all the gambling sites practically fund the majority of these teams and keep their lights on. My question is what is going to happen when and if these disappear? Will we see a decrease in pro teams and maybe tournaments altogether? Or is that just one of many possibilities? Today's video will break down and discuss the ongoing struggle it takes to run, but most importantly fund a Counter-Strike esports team, as well as the growing concerns. Now today's video sponsor is SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a buying but most notably trading marketplace, that being for your CS2 items. You can trade off your old skins for something new. All you do is log in with Steam, you start a trade, and any cash remaining goes to your available balance on the site. When it comes to trading an item you don't have enough balance for on the site, SkinsMonkey has a large variety of deposit options. By using my code MANDO, you can get up to a free $5, and by depositing alongside using my code, you get an additional 35% of a deposit bonus. With SkinsMonkey's large variety of skins, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. If interested, the link will be in the top of the description down below. Firstly, for today's video, I want to mention where this started. On March the 13th, just a few days ago at 4:30 p.m., Sam on Twitter decided to put out a tweet about his experience funding a pro Counter-Strike team. Now, this post is pretty lengthy, and there's actually a lot of great quote tweets and comments down below, so I'm going to link his post as well as his Twitter account, so I suggest you go check it out if you're interested. He's the CEO and founder of ITB Esports, and most people watching today's video and in the CS scene know them as Into the Breach. Made it into the recent Paris Major inside Counter-Strike 2, and have just wandered off it seems until now. Now, like I just mentioned, the post is pretty long. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes and a quick summary. He goes on to say it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund the team, let alone an organization like this tier 1 space every single month. He later on says that money isn't always guaranteed in this space. Essentially, if you don't place well, something happens, sponsors can pull funding or leave entirely. And he says closer to the bottom, as a responsible CEO, he said if there's no money or guarantee he can pay his players, he can't have them in the organization, let alone have an org inside Counter-Strike. He continues to say in order to have an operable team, they must have a really big bank account, essentially have money stashed away for when the hard times hit. Kind of similar to life, but it's in the Counter-Strike business. Ad placings occur or sponsors leave in order to push them back to the top. For what these hard times mean, it's hard to say, as I'm not a Counter-Strike org or own one, or really know anyone that does, but from what I've heard and seen from posts over the last few years, let's just say a team enters back into Counter-Strike, they pick up a brand new roster, maybe it's an existing team, let's just say Cloud9 buys with the Astralis roster. Team in theory would place very well, but then they play and place horribly, sponsors might not want to pay them as much, or be able to pay them as much because there's a new top dog and they have to pay them more, or they just pull funding entirely, they have to find new sponsors, and the cycle continues. Or maybe someone on the main roster gets sick, they have to hire someone new while paying the other player, and it pretty much just goes on in a loop like that. Pretty much concludes his summary. There's a lot more, so once again, go check it out if you're interested. A comment to this tweet is from ThorCS, a CS2 data miner. He chimed in and said it's a good explanation, but also a good understanding of why so many teams did what they did and are continuing to pull out of Counter-Strike. There was pretty much a conversation going on between Master Shiny and Sam in this same comment section, which pretty much said if you don't have a gambling sponsor inside Counter-Strike and you are a streamer, have someone on the org that is a streamer, or the org gets that many views in general, you're not really going to be able to fund a pro team, let alone a whole organization, especially in the tier 1 or maybe even tier 2 as CS. And I would like to mention this isn't just for Counter-Strike either. Yes, this can seem pretty bad, but there's others that are much worse. I'd say the best and luckiest thing to happen to Counter-Strike is the fact that we don't have an official league, and aside from majors, Valve lets us do what we want, when we want, and what we want to host, that being in terms of tournaments. Call of Duty is an example of what is a complete joke. They've recently made it in the past 4 years, where if you want to compete in competitive Call of Duty, which yes, I know Call of Duty as an esport is kind of a meme, but at one point it was semi-cool to watch. Feels extremely regulated, and got rid of that Call of Duty feeling, or touch I'd say. Imagine if Counter-Strike majors became regulated by Valve. You'd only have 1 or 2 a year, and I'm talking tournaments in general, on a LAN. The setting and atmosphere of all the players watching the pro teams, that would be gone, the prize pool would diminish, the game's quality but also fan base would start to decline. Yeah, if that happened in CS, that'd be pretty bad. Call of Duty made it whereas if you want to have an org, you first have to buy into the league for $25 million. There's a big catch. You're never going to be able to pay that money back. You only have 2 to 4 LANs a year. Even if you win every single tournament for 5 to 10 years straight, with the percentage that the organization takes home, other cuts across the board, you still wouldn't be able to pay that debt back. Just makes no sense, but this also ain't Call of Duty. I see esports moving in a direction very similar to movies and video games, especially in those industries. Essentially, it's just too much money or funding needed to operate. To make a quote-unquote AAA game or a very good movie now, these budgets are outrageous, almost costing $1 billion, sometimes a little over that. I would personally expect within the next couple of years, more organizations to start leaving what we were previously used to. Tournaments not just in CS, but esports overall. I think slowly over time, we're going to start to see less and less LANs, mainly just because a lot of these esports teams and organizations are not going to have have the funding or money needed to flow. I personally had an idea of what this was like before, but with this recent post by Sam, which I suggest you go check out, gave me a way better understanding of what it's like owning a team, gives a big reason why so many pro teams are in and out of Counter-Strike pretty much 24/7. And for the North American CS fans, this is also probably a big reason why a lot of those teams and organizations don't want anything to do with NACS, let alone pick up a roster. Now this is Luke in the post edit. After waiting a few days to read Sam's post, edit the video as well as watch the PGL Major, I feel like I should give a concluding consensus to today's video. Yeah, those are some big boy words. Essentially, if you're an esports org, especially near the bottom, you're not the first top tier, top dog, cream of the crop who gets all the sponsors. Unless you have some crazy funding that's coming out of your own pockets, you're not going to be able to fund the team unless you have a gambling sponsor, but specifically with streams. If you have a Gamba sponsor on Twitch, you're going to be making bank, and that's pretty much enough to fund a pro team, but you also need it on your jerseys, which this is not me defending pro teams for having Gamba sponsors in the first place, but if you think back to just a year ago when G2 Esports with Monetize and that specific ad taking up the CSGO role sponsorship, it gives me just a little more understanding of why they maybe took it in the first place. And if you're wondering why they would take it, well, one, because funding's hard, but Counter-Strike as an esport, let alone game, is extremely hard to get sponsorships just because of the whole T and CT situation and the fact that there's a C4 in game. It's kind of complicated. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay positive, stay sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.